The Ferrari engineers have prepared modifications to Lewis Hamilton's SF25. Stay until the end, only if you want to know the details that could make Hamilton the winner of the Japanese Grand Prix. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Once again, the world of Formula One unveils itself not merely as a sporting competition, but as a high-stakes, turbocharged geopolitical drama, an elaborate dance of power, innovation, and nerve where fortunes are made and reputations are shattered, all against the backdrop of screaming V6 engines and the ceaseless hum of data streams flowing in real time. With each passing hour, the tension escalates, the stakes climb higher, and the margin for error narrows to a razor's edge. As the paddock sets its gaze toward the revered Suzuka circuit, a temple of speed, precision, and danger, the atmosphere is thick with unspoken rivalries, unconfirmed rumors, and strategic brinkmanship that stretches far beyond the public eye. The intensity surrounding the Japanese Grand Prix isn't merely rooted in its legendary corners or its legacy as a crucible where championships are often decided, but rather in the undercurrents of transformation sweeping across the grid. Every team, from the frontrunners to the midfield warriors, is engaged in a furious arms race of innovation, flying components across continents on last-minute flights, crunching terabytes of simulation data in search of microscopic gains, and recalibrating long-term development plans to accommodate shifting dynamics. Nowhere is this more palpable than within the blood-red garages of Scuderia Ferrari, the most storied and emotionally magnetic institution in the history of Formula One. Ferrari finds itself perched on the precipice of what could be a pivotal redefinition of its season, and perhaps, its entire competitive philosophy heading into 2025. The Maranello-based squad, draped in nearly a century of tradition and the weight of global expectation, has endured a frustratingly inconsistent start to the current campaign. They've demonstrated flashes of competitiveness, sharp qualifying pace here, strategic brilliance there, but those moments have been continually undermined by a maddening lack of technical coherence. Core aerodynamic flaws, setup sensitivities, and an ever-present struggle to extract performance without destabilizing the car's finely tuned balance have all conspired to keep them just out of reach of the top. Internally, the pressure is volcanic. Engineers, aerodynamicists, and strategists are working under an unforgiving microscope, acutely aware that every delay in development, every miscalculated upgrade, and every data discrepancy could tilt the balance of power. This isn't just about shaving tenths off lap times. It's about preserving the credibility of a team that defines itself by victory, about restoring faith in a fanbase that lives and breathes every heartbeat of the prancing horse. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Central to Ferrari's recalibrated trajectory is a long-awaited floor upgrade, an innovation that was originally penciled in for deployment at the Bahrain Grand Prix. This isn't some routine spec change. It represents a foundational reinterpretation of Ferrari's aerodynamic philosophy, a painstakingly engineered solution aimed at addressing the Achilles heel that has plagued their chassis since pre-season testing: the inability to consistently manage ride height without falling prey to either excessive plank wear or unpredictable rear-end behavior. The floor, as trivial as it might sound to the uninitiated, is the linchpin of ground effect efficiency. Get it wrong, and you're fighting the car through every apex. Get it right, and you unlock a realm of stability and aerodynamic consistency that can be the difference between podiums and mediocrity. This redesigned floor, reportedly the product of hundreds of CFD iterations and wind tunnel hours, seeks to strike a delicate equilibrium between downforce generation and vertical compliance, essentially allowing the car to run lower and stiffer without triggering porpoising or unsettling the rear axle under load transitions. The result, if successful, could finally allow Ferrari to access the full potential of their power unit and chassis in unison, something that's eluded them so far. Moreover, its implementation is wrapped in strategic nuance. Bringing it to Suzuka, a circuit that ruthlessly exposes aerodynamic flaws, is both a bold statement of confidence and a calculated risk. There's no place to hide at Suzuka. If the upgrade works, it'll be evident in the stopwatch. If it fails, the repercussions could be immediate and brutal. What's more, this move isn't happening in isolation. It is taking place in a hyper-political context where every technical decision is intrinsically tied to the team's long-term direction. Behind closed doors, discussions about driver lineups, future concept directions, and potential structural overhauls are reportedly ongoing. With key figures like Frederic Vasseur steering the ship through one of the most transformative periods in recent team history, the pressure to deliver tangible progress is suffocating. Stakeholders at every level, from boardrooms in Maranello to tifosi-filled grandstands across the globe, are watching with bated breath. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. The timing of this upgrade also intersects with a larger philosophical battle playing out across the grid. Teams like Red Bull and McLaren have found performance through aggressive floor geometries and novel airflow conditioning strategies, whereas Ferrari has had to walk a more conservative path, constrained by the narrow setup window of their current design. This new floor represents not just a technical evolution, but a psychological pivot, a signal that Ferrari is ready to abandon half measures and take calculated leaps in pursuit of performance supremacy. Ultimately, what makes this narrative so gripping isn't merely the mechanical complexity or the strategic implications, it's the human drama woven into every carbon fiber panel. The engineers pulling all-nighters in Maranello, the drivers desperately seeking consistency to extract their maximum potential, the strategists wrestling with simulations and variables. It's all part of a broader theater of ambition, resilience, and relentless pursuit of excellence. As the F1 circus touches down in Japan, every detail, every sensor reading, and every split-second decision will matter. And in that crucible of pressure and precision, the new Ferrari floor will either mark the beginning of a triumphant turnaround, or be remembered as a gamble that came too late. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. The latest murmurs drifting out of Maranello, fueled by well-placed insiders and whispers among the seasoned figures wandering the paddock, indicate that Frédéric Vasseur is leaving absolutely nothing to chance. The Frenchman, known for his methodical intensity and relentless pursuit of competitive gains, is reportedly exerting immense internal pressure to fast-track a critical aerodynamic upgrade, a revolutionary new floor. The urgency surrounding this development isn't just palpable, it's borderline audacious. We're not merely talking about making a minor tweak or a cosmetic adjustment. This is a full-fledged engineering overhaul of one of the car's most pivotal components, one that influences everything from mechanical grip to aerodynamic balance and high-speed cornering stability. Accelerating this project to potentially be ready in time for the upcoming Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka is a logistical ballet of the highest order, an orchestration that would test even the most seasoned F1 operation. The process demands the rapid conceptualization and simulation of a new aerodynamic architecture, followed by precision manufacturing techniques often reserved for aerospace projects. Then comes the rigorous battery of wind tunnel testing, CFD validation, and simulation cross-referencing, all under the merciless eye of the FIA ACE regulatory framework. Only once those hurdles are cleared can the component be meticulously packaged and shipped across continents, from the heart of Italy's Motor Valley to the racing temples of Japan, all within an almost impossibly narrow time window. Should Ferrari accomplish this engineering feat, it will signify far more than a performance gain. It will be a thunderous declaration of intent to the rest of the grid. No longer content with playing catch-up or reacting to the innovations of rivals, Ferrari will be making it abundantly clear that it intends to shape the competitive narrative, not merely follow it. The symbolism of bringing such a major update to Suzuka, a high-speed technical masterpiece of a circuit that mercilessly punishes aerodynamic inefficiencies, is not lost on anyone. It's as if Ferrari is daring the sport to watch as it steps out of the shadows and into the strategic spotlight. The implications for the drivers could be transformative. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, two of the most talented and media-magnetic figures in the paddock, have, until now, been forced to wrestle with a car that teases brilliance but often delivers inconsistency. For Hamilton, still adapting to life in red and chasing that elusive 8th world title, this could be the first real glimpse of machinery worthy of his legend. And for Leclerc, ever the passionate Monégasque hoping to fulfill his long-standing dream of a championship with Ferrari, the stakes are nothing short of career-defining. If this new floor lives up to its design potential, if it provides the downforce stability, aerodynamic predictability, and mechanical harmony that it promises, then the gap to McLaren and Red Bull could begin to narrow in ways we haven't yet seen this season. But this is Ferrari, a team as romantic as it is volatile. And with great ambition comes the specter of risk. The dangers here are not theoretical, they're deeply rooted in the team's recent history. Ferrari has often battled with correlation issues between their digital simulations and on-track behavior. If this new component fails to align with the expected performance benchmarks, if the data gathered in virtual testing fails to translate into real-world gains, the consequences could be disastrous. It would not only squander valuable development resources during a tightly regulated season, but could also shatter the fragile momentum the team is finally beginning to generate. Elsewhere in the paddock, another team is flexing its muscle, not just through innovation, but through cultural and emotional resonance. Red Bull Racing, never content to simply dominate lap times, has again mastered the art of narrative control. This week, they unveiled a special edition livery for the RB21 that has captivated fans and commentators alike. In an age when liveries are often dictated by sponsor obligations and risk-averse branding teams, Red Bull has delivered something refreshingly different, a visually arresting homage wrapped in pure minimalist elegance. The white-based design, accented with purposeful strokes of red and black, is not just a nod to their enduring relationship with Honda. It's a heartfelt tribute to Japan itself and the legacy of Suzuka as one of F1's most beloved circuits. Longtime enthusiasts will immediately recognize echoes of the unforgettable Turkey 2021 livery, a design originally intended to debut at Suzuka before pandemic-related disruptions forced a pivot. But this new interpretation feels more mature, more intentional. Where the 2021 livery was a striking surprise, this one feels like the culmination of a deeper collaboration, less of a marketing flash and more of a reverent celebration. In doing so, Red Bull has once again reminded the sport why their dominance extends beyond just engineering and strategy. They understand the emotional dimension of Formula One, the passion, the pageantry, the nostalgia. By presenting a livery that resonates with the soul of the fanbase, they've reinforced their image not just as winners, but as cultural custodians of the sport. It's a clever, calculated move that injects personality and sentiment into a championship narrative often consumed by telemetry and tire compounds. So as Suzuka looms on the horizon, the spotlight intensifies. One team is racing against time to redefine its destiny through sheer engineering willpower, while another dances confidently through the spotlight, using heritage and symbolism to captivate hearts. And somewhere in that tense, beautiful collision of performance and storytelling, the soul of Formula One comes alive once again. The individual embodying the aspirations, dreams, and emotional weight of an entire nation this weekend is none other than Yuki Tsunoda, a figure who has slowly but steadily risen from being a promising junior to now stepping into the cockpit of the senior Red Bull machine, on home soil no less. This isn't just another race for Tsunoda. It's an emotional apex in a journey marked by resilience, evolution, and relentless self-improvement. For the first time in his career, he finds himself wearing the colors of the top-tier Honda-powered Red Bull team, right in front of an electrified Japanese crowd who support borders on reverence. Every gaze in the paddock, every lens from the international media, every whisper across social networks will be fixed on him, not merely as a driver, but as a symbol of potential, national pride, and Red Bull's future. What makes this moment even more intense is the backdrop against which it unfolds. He's not just filling a seat, he's stepping into one of the most scrutinized and politically intricate environments in motorsport. Red Bull Racing is legendary not just for its performance but also for its internal pressures, relentless standards, and swift managerial decisions. Drivers have come and gone at dizzying speeds, their careers either catapulted into stardom or crushed under expectations. Tsunoda knows this well. He's seen it happen. And now he's inside the eye of that very storm. He arrives at this point not by chance, but through moments of deep reflection and critical self-assessment. Just last year, following a turbulent Bahrain Grand Prix, Tsunoda made headlines, not for his driving prowess, but for an emotional outburst and an aggressive on-track maneuver against teammate Daniel Ricciardo. That weekend, once the adrenaline faded, turned out to be a defining moment. In a candid string of interviews since then, he's acknowledged that it was a wake-up call. A point where he was forced to confront the emotional volatility that had sometimes overshadowed his raw talent. He recognized, painfully but truthfully, that if he didn't evolve, if he didn't learn to manage the mental and psychological toll of elite racing, his dream of becoming Red Bull's lead contender would remain forever out of reach. And so, this weekend is about far more than lap times or race positions. It's a test of maturity, a demonstration of his transformation from a fast but erratic rookie to a thoughtful, composed, strategically aware competitor. His own expectations are grounded. He's spoken with refreshing realism about aiming for points rather than podiums. But make no mistake, the symbolism of performing well here, especially if he can challenge or even come close to the seemingly untouchable Max Verstappen, could be seismic. Inside Red Bull, whispers suggest he won't be ordered to move aside should he find himself ahead of Max, a rare departure from the team's historically rigid hierarchy. Whether that hints at a shift toward more open driver competition or simply reflects an unshakable belief in Verstappen's dominance is anyone's guess. But for Tsunoda, it's an implicit vote of confidence. A signal that, for the first time, he's being taken seriously as more than a supporting act. Yet, even as Tsunoda steps into the limelight, another storyline is quietly accelerating toward a potentially dramatic turn. Sergio Checo Perez, The battle-worn veteran who once looked like Red Bull's steady second sword, now finds himself at a crossroads. His performances in the latter half of last season sparked concern, not just inside the team but across the F1 community. Rumors have swirled for months about his place within the organization, and now with whispers growing louder, it seems Perez is actively exploring life beyond Red Bull. Among the emerging scenarios, one stands out for its ambition and intrigue: a possible partnership with Cadillac, the American powerhouse preparing to storm into Formula One with a bold agenda and the resources to make an impact. The idea isn't far-fetched. Cadillac, eager to establish credibility and build immediate brand recognition, reportedly sees Checo as the perfect fusion of seasoned racecraft, commercial appeal across North and Latin America, and invaluable technical insight. For Perez, long believed to be inching toward retirement, this could be the lifeline that transforms his narrative. No longer just the reliable number two in a dominant team, but potentially the spearhead of a new project, an icon reimagining his final act in the sport. Far from fading into the background, he's once again in demand. According to him, the interest is genuine and widespread. Multiple organizations have reached out, and while he's remaining tight-lipped about specifics, the message is clear: he's not done, not by a long shot. What we're witnessing is a fascinating convergence of career arcs, one just beginning to ascend to its highest altitude, the other fighting to remain airborne amidst turbulence. In the relentless, ever-evolving theater of Formula One, where a single race can rewrite reputations and shift power balances, both Tsunoda and Perez are navigating defining junctures. One seeks validation, the other, reinvention. And as engines roar to life under the lights of Suzuka, the world watches, not just for lap times or overtakes, but for the stories being written, the legacies being shaped, and the futures being decided in real time. In other corners of the paddock, tensions once simmering beneath the surface are now erupting into full-blown conflict, as the internal dynamics at McLaren morph into a drama worthy of center stage. What began as a friendly competition between teammates has evolved into one of the most captivating and fiercely contested rivalries seen in recent years. The escalating duel between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri is no longer just a subplot. It has become a centerpiece of the championship narrative, attracting attention from fans, analysts, and insiders alike. As Ferrari and Mercedes continue to wrestle with performance inconsistencies and operational missteps, McLaren has surged forward, positioning itself as the most credible challenger to Red Bull's throne. Yet, within the walls of the Woking-based team, unity is beginning to fracture under the strain of two supremely talented drivers vying for supremacy. Oscar Piastri, often underestimated due to his composed demeanor and analytical approach, has emerged as a formidable force on the grid. His clinical execution on race day, coupled with a razor-sharp understanding of racecraft and tire management, has allowed him to consistently punch above expectations. He's not flashy, he's not loud, but he's fast, brutally fast, and unapologetically ambitious. On the other side of the garage, Lando Norris, once the uncontested leader of McLaren and a perennial fan favorite for his charisma and consistency, is now staring down a challenge he's never quite had to face before. For the first time in his Formula One career, he is sharing the garage with a teammate who can not only match his pace but potentially outclass him when it matters most. The tension is no longer subtle. Behind closed doors and away from the cameras, murmurs are growing louder that Piastri's contract may contain protective clauses, specifically ones that prohibit the team from issuing preferential orders to Norris. If true, such stipulations would essentially lock McLaren leadership into a hands-off approach, allowing both drivers to fight unfettered, lap after lap, with no interference. This opens the door to an unfiltered, unrestrained battle for intra-team dominance, one that is already playing out in qualifying sectors, race starts, pit stop strategy, and on-track duels. Every maneuver, every radio message, every glance in the paddock is loaded with subtext and silent warfare. Piastri himself has broken his characteristic silence to make his position known. In a recent pointed interview, he pulled no punches, stating unequivocally that he has no intention of playing second fiddle. He didn't come to Formula One to hold position, he came to challenge, to conquer, and ultimately to win. The next 3 races, which form a grueling triple-header across demanding circuits, are expected to be pivotal in shaping the trajectory of this internal power struggle. It's not just about lap times anymore, it's about psychological advantage, mechanical trust, and strategic ruthlessness. The atmosphere is civil for now, built on mutual respect and professional courtesy, but with every point gained and every podium shared, or taken, the veneer of camaraderie grows thinner. A single incident, One controversial overtake or a team order gone wrong could shatter the facade and ignite a firestorm. Meanwhile, far from the spotlight of this gladiatorial McLaren duel, Aston Martin is laying the groundwork for a strategic masterstroke of potentially historic proportions. Lawrence Stroll, never one to think small or play safe, is quietly orchestrating a seismic shift behind the scenes. Bolstered by fresh investment and unwavering ambition, the Canadian billionaire is reportedly preparing to make a generational play, an offer of such magnitude that it could tempt Max Verstappen, the reigning titan of Red Bull, to switch allegiances. According to motorsport legend Juan Pablo Montoya, the financial and competitive proposition being crafted is not just impressive, it's potentially irresistible. If the rumors bear fruit, the ripple effects across the paddock would be extraordinary. For Fernando Alonso, who has openly declared his intention to remain in the sport through the 2026 regulatory overhaul, such a move would likely mark a dramatic pivot. While Alonso's current form remains strong and his racing intellect sharper than ever, he may be invited to transition into a senior advisory or ambassadorial capacity, an elegant exit befitting a legend, but one forced not by time, but by opportunity. The implications of Verstappen in green, backed by a resurgent Aston Martin with a works Honda power unit and cutting-edge facilities, would completely upend the sport's competitive landscape, just as teams begin the final countdown to the next engine era. And so, as the F1 circus sets up camp in Suzuka, a track revered for its perfect blend of speed, history, and technical challenge, the sport finds itself on the precipice of something monumental. The air is heavy with anticipation. The possibilities are endless, the risks astronomical. Each race feels like it could redefine careers, rewrite reputations, and redraw the championship map. These are not just races, they are crucibles, pressure chambers where heroes are forged and legacies are burned into the tarmac. This is the raw essence of Formula One. A swirling tempest of ambition, precision, ego, and courage. A theater where every misstep is magnified and every triumph is hard-won. The margin between glory and catastrophe is razor-thin, and only the bold dare to dance on that edge. In this sport, survival isn't guaranteed. Greatness is earned, corner by corner, race by race, heartbeat by heartbeat.